Justice with Judge Mablean will be life because in everything we do, it involves the law.
You came to court to testify about what you heard, what you saw, and what you know.
She's fair.
I don't have a hearing problem. This ear works good. This one works even better.
She's firm.
I'm not responsible for that ticket, and I'm not going to pay for it.
Who says you're not going to pay for it? I make that decision, not you.
She's honest.
What you have to say?
All I have to
Nothing.
say.
This is Justice with Judge Mablean. Joan Bennett is suing Betsy McDonald in the amount of $500. Ms. Bennett claims her son was bitten by another student at the defendant's daycare, causing him to contract a bad staph infection.
The matter of Joan Bennett versus Betsy McDonald, you're suing her for $500 because your child was bit, and there was $500 was the medical expenses, or at least your deductible. What happened?
Under her care in her daycare facility, my child was bit by another student, and that resulted in a staph infection that took 2 hospital visits and 2 doses of antibiotics to clear up.
How old is your child?
He is 3 years old.
And this occurred at school?
Yes.
Do you know the circumstances under which it occurred?
According to the defendant and the defendant witness, this occurred at recess while they were playing with a ball. There was an incident that resulted in another kid biting him.
Okay, were you notified?
Yes, I was called by the daycare center as soon as it happened, and I went up there to check on him during my lunch break.
And what did you observe?
When I got there, he was in the nurse's office, and she showed me the wound. They had cleaned it and put a Band-Aid on it, and that was about it.
They had put some antibiotic on it in the brief that I got.
Yes.
Okay. And then you took him to the doctor?
Not immediately. That night we went home. I cleaned the wound again, put a fresh Band-Aid on it, went to bed. The middle of the night, he woke up. He had a fever. He was crying. That's when I took him to the hospital, and the doctor said the wound had gotten infected and it was a staph infection.
And how long did it last?
It lasted for a little over a week. They gave us a round of antibiotics the first night, and after a couple of days, there was no improvement. It seemed to have gotten worse. We went back, and they had to give a stronger dose of antibiotics, but it got a little rough, but after a couple of days, it finally started to clear up.
So basically the same treatment, cleaning it, and antibiotics?
Yes.
As the school had done?
Yes.
Is that correct? How old was the child that bit him, do you know?
I do not know the age of the child.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to Ms. McDonald.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are the principal, the owner?
I'm the owner of Fresh Beginnings Daycare Center and Preschool.
All right, and were you present during this occurrence?
I was on the grounds, but I was not on the playground at the time. My teacher, the child's teacher, Mrs. Green, was in attendance, as well as her teacher's assistant, and 2 other teachers who were also on the recess duty.
And Mrs. Green, this is Mrs. Green?
Yes, ma'am. This is one of his our teachers here at Fresh Beginnings.
Okay, so let me hear from her then, since she's more aware of what occurred. So tell me what occurred.
Okay, so the kids had recess, and it was me and Mrs. Smith. They were playing with the ball. Tyler, this little boy, Jeremy, was playing with the ball, and he brought it up to Tyler, and Tyler slapped it out of his hands.
So your son's name is Tyler?
Yes.
And Jeremy is the other young boy?
Yes.
How old was he?
3 as well.
So they're playing ball. Jeremy brought the ball to Tyler. Tyler slapped it out of his hand.
And I walked over and I told Tyler, that's not how you play. And I told Tyler to apologize to Jeremy, and he did. And he picked up the ball, and while he was handing the ball over back to Jeremy, bit him in the arm.
Oh, so Jeremy's a little biter, huh? So did you call Jeremy's parents and tell them about the situation?
Yes, I did.
And was there any punishment on the part of Jeremy?
Yes, there was. What I did after he bit him, I walked over to Jeremy and I made him apologize to Tyler. When I saw Tyler was in pain, the way he was looking like, I had Mrs. Smith take him to the nurse immediately. And then I called Jeremy's parents to let them know the incident that had taken place.
And you called, and someone calls Tyler's parents. Who called Tyler's parents?
Our staff secretary called Tyler's parents to let them know that there's an incident that occurred, and we also called Jeremy's parents to let them know there's an incident that occurred.
All right.
That's part of our protocol there.
And then the nurse treated him.
Yes, I have a registered nurse on duty all times at our preschool. We're the only preschool in our area that has a full-time registered nurse. So
Wow,
we were
that's
there.
unusual.
Yes, ma'am. We pride ourselves on the quality of care. We love those children. And so we were right there right away. As soon as the incident happened, she was there on site. She pulled them apart. She reprimanded them.
Now, you weren't there, so you don't know all that. Now, she
I
told
can only
me.
go by the report that she gave me. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but I don't need you to repeat what
Yes.
she just told me.
Yes.
Does the school have insurance?
Yes, we do. It's required.
And did you give it to Mrs. Bennett?
I absolutely did. At her request, I offered her the forms. I gave them to her and said, "Here, please file a claim." And the insurance company said that we were not at fault and they would not cash her claim. And here's a copy of that letter.
So the insurance company denied the claim?
Yes, ma'am.
Coming up on Justice with Judge Mablean.
Didn't they ask you that question on the form? How did this incident occur? Where did it occur? Did the third party have insurance? Da-da-da-da-da. That's why they asked you all those questions, because they're trying to pass the buck.
And later,
So a wave all of a sudden came up, crashed, knocked me over, pushing me into her. We get pulled into this little tide pool and my phone is gone into the water, into the tide pool.
Justice with Judge Mablean. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Joan Bennett, who is suing Betsy McDonald for medical expenses.
So the insurance company denied the claim, and you now are bringing the lawsuit against her, and really your insurance attorneys, the attorneys for your insurance company should be representing you in this case whenever you're sued and you have insurance. You should not represent yourself. You should always have attorneys from the insurance company to represent you in such lawsuits.
I agree, and that's why I asked my attorney, and he said, "Well, you know what? You have a waiver here that she signed that precludes you for all of this."
Let me see that
ma'am,
waiver.
which is part of our staff and policy here.
Now, is this $500 your deductible? The
Yes.
part you had to pay from your medical insurance?
Yes, this is my deductible.
Okay. Now, when you took your son to the hospital asked you, how did the injury occur?
Yes.
Right? And you told them at school, etc., right?
Yes.
Now, insurance companies then decide if the injury occurred by a third party, then they usually figure out who the third party was and what the circumstances are, and they will contact the third party's insurance company. Trust me, because they don't want to pay either. If your insurance company paid for the incident that occurred on the school campus and only requiring you to pay the deductible, but they paid for the medical care, they have accepted the liability and said, your child is not their fault, and so they've given you the medical treatment.
But I disagree. I do believe they're at fault because when I came
But
to
you can disagree all you want, but that's the way this works. You understand?
Yes.
She had insurance. Her insurance is to cover her for liability. Medical providers, your insurance company, when there's a third-party claim, that's why they asked you. Didn't they ask you that question on the form? How did this incident occur? Where did it occur? Did the third party have insurance? Da-da-da-da-da. That's why they asked you all those questions, because they're trying to pass the buck. Everybody wants to pass the buck. So once they did that, trust me, they contacted her insurance company. Trust me, they investigated, and they decided they're not at fault. We're going to pay this claim. Otherwise, your insurance carrier would not have paid. That's the way those evaluations go. Now, of course, you can bring it into court for a different evaluation and see if the judge believes that they're at fault. And right now, I quite agree that I don't see any negligence on the part of the school. The school cannot be responsible for children who do something that's wrong to another child unless they allow it, they promote it, or they do nothing about it once it's done. That's when you hold them liable. Why do you think the school was wrong?
Because when I came to them with this claim, their excuse was that, well, your child instigated it and he's been an issue. But since he was in their care, I never got word or a complaint that he was an issue or that there was a problem. And if there was and they had come to me, we could have come with a plan of action, because kids don't just start biting. There are things that lead up to that. And I feel like that is where they were negligent, because we could have prevented this incident from ever occurring if the proper communication had happened.
How many children you have?
This is my only child.
Oh, okay. Children do just do that. Sometimes kids come to school and they have their own issues from home or somewhere else. Sometimes kids have another issue with another child that they haven't expressed it or said anything to anyone about, but all of a sudden they'll just lash out. There are psychological problems for the reason children lash out. There are all kind of reasons why a child may lash out and do something totally out of, quote, character that has never been done before. You don't know why. You understand?
Yes.
Now, so when she's saying she didn't tell you before, that's what I read in the brief, is that they handled all the little incidents that happened. And that's what they're supposed to do. You don't want them calling you every time something happens between two kids on the school campus. Trust me, you don't. Because this goes on and on and on. And one of the things a good administrator and a good teacher knows how to do is to put it in check. Because if you keep getting the parents involved, it's just going to fester and get bigger and bigger and bigger. You have to teach children how to resolve conflict among themselves. That's the best lesson to learn. So it's better to try to get it resolved among the children and to teach them conflict resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's another reason. And then you signed a waiver. Let me read what it says. But now you know under the law, you can't sign away a waiver of behavior that is really covered. You can sign all the waivers you want, but if it's something that's criminal or it's something that should not be, this waiver doesn't amount to a hill of beans.
Absolutely, I
But in
understand
this
that.
particular situation, I'm not going on the waiver. I'm going on the fact that I don't believe, and the court does not believe that the school was negligent in any manner or had any responsibility for this child's conduct, and they acted prudently in correcting the situation, in providing the antibiotics and the nurse's care, and in contacting you immediately so that you could seek the necessary medical care. So therefore, judgment for the defendant, the plaintiff's claim is denied.
Judge Mablean has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I'm so sorry that your child was hurt. It was an unfortunate incident.
My child was hurt under your care, and I still hold you responsible.
Coming up,
Me and him made a connection though, and so I went home with him, and I think she's
A
just,
strange guy in Vegas?
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Justice with Judge Mablean. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. Darla Sutton is suing Lauren Fisher in the amount of $1,200. Ms. Sutton claims Ms. Fisher coerced her into taking a photo on the beach and says a wave washed her cell phone away.
Darla Sutton versus Lauren Fisher. You're suing her for $1,200, the cost of a cell phone that was lost somewhere in the ocean.
That is correct,
Right?
Your Honor.
What happened?
Well, it all started, we've been best friends throughout college. We just graduated. I got a job in a different city, San Francisco. So I was like, hey, why don't we take this road trip together? And so we started our road trip, made a few stops along the way. And this is where I think that she broke my phone on purpose. Because when we were in Vegas, she was all over this guy who clearly wasn't interested in her. And she even has a boyfriend back in Denver. And me and him made a connection, though. And so I went home with him. And I think she's
A
just,
strange guy in Vegas?
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But anyway, so I think she was just upset about that, even though she has a boyfriend. So,
If she was all over the man and she's your friend and she was showing an interest in the man,
well, he wasn't interested in
and the man
her.
wasn't interested in her, why would you as her friend
Well, we had
go
a
out with
connection.
him?
Me and the guy had a connection, and she has
Wow.
a boyfriend. Me and my boyfriend just broke up. She knew I was single and ready to mingle, and me and him clearly had a connection.
Oh.
So after that, she was kind of bitter, and we continue on to San Francisco. I suggest that we go to Half Moon Bay. So we get to Half Moon Bay, and again, she's like, oh, let's take pictures. She put her purse off on the shore more. Didn't want to use her phone, I guess, so she wants me to go pose by the water, by the breakwater.
Coming up,
It was $1,200.
For an act of nature, she's supposed to pay for it.
I mean, she is the one that took my phone, and why couldn't we use her phone for the picture?
closed captioning provided by You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Darla Sutton, who is suing Lauren Fisher for property loss.
Went out to the rock to take the picture. What happened?
So a wave all of a sudden came up, crashed, knocked me over, pushing me into her. We get pulled into this little tide pool, and my phone is gone into the water, into the tide pool, lost in some
Both
rocks.
of you are gone into the water
Both
and
of
into the
us are
tide
gone
pool.
into the
So
water.
it's not just your phone, it's your bodies too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now she's supposed to pay for it.
It was $1,200.
For an act of nature, she's supposed to pay for it.
I mean, she is the one that took my phone, and why couldn't we use her phone for the picture?
I don't know. Obviously, you agreed to use the phone. She's taking your picture.
I mean, she coerced me, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah, she coerced you. That's right. I keep forgetting. The coercion.
Your Honor, I also twisted my ankle when that wave came through. I hurt myself. It was entirely an accident.
I may have agreed to take the picture, but I didn't agree for my phone to get dropped in the ocean.
And she didn't agree to drop your phone in the ocean either.
Again, I think she dropped it on purpose because of the guy in Vegas. I mean, it's not like we were like brought right into like the deep parts of the ocean. It was a tiny tide
Miss Sutton,
wave
by
pool.
your own words, I believe she dropped it on purpose because of the guy in Vegas. A wave came suddenly, a big wave, pushed me out into her. So she's not even on the rock where you are. The wave gets all the way over there to her after it pushes you into her, and she happens to be holding your phone. That sounds like an act of nature.
The wave was an act of nature, Your Honor.
Okay.
But
it's because she's mad at you because of the cell phone. So is the wave mad at you because of the boyfriend too?
I mean, she put me out by the wave.
Oh, God.
Judge Mablean's verdict when Justice with Judge Mablean returns. Promotional consideration provided by. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean.
I'm not going to waste any more time on this. This is pure foolishness. Pure foolishness. You are an intelligent woman, and by your own words, a wave came suddenly, unexpectedly. A tide pushed me into her, fell. What is that called? You know the word for that, the synonym?
An accident?
Oh, you do know that.
But, Your Honor, I mean...
Accident. What does accident mean?
It didn't happen
College
on
graduate.
purpose. However...
What does the word accident mean?
It wasn't on purpose.
I am not going to make this woman pay for your phone. I'm not going to make you pay for her ankle. Because again, it was an act of God, an act of nature. So she has to use her health insurance to pay for her ankle. But you are concerned about a phone and not have no consideration.
I mean, I had to use my credit card to get a new phone, and now I'm in debt.
If you don't get out of my courtroom, I'm going to I may have to call your college and ask them to rescind that degree. Because you're not sounding too intelligent. I want you to go back, replay this conversation in your mind, and listen to it. You know you're being foolish. Absolute absurdity. Absurdity. Judgment for the defendant.
Judge Mablean has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
Well, like the judge said, it was an accident and you should have had insurance.
I regret even inviting you on the road trip.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.